Declan Rice said Chelsea did not want him. Now he is going to the Champions League final. Here is the full story. Let that sink in for a moment. A boy who grew up loving Chelsea, who trained at their academy, who dreamed of one day pulling on a blue shirt at Stamford Bridge, was told at the age of 14 that he was not good enough. He went home and cried for an hour. His dad sat with him and broke the news. Chelsea had let him go. That same boy is now one of the best midfielders in England. He is an Arsenal captain. He just helped knock out Atletico Madrid to reach the Champions League final. And on the night it happened, the first thing he talked about was Chelsea. Not in an angry way, not in a bitter way, but in a way that told you this story has never left him, and it probably never will. So if you are a Chelsea fan, a football fan, or someone who just loves a good story about rejection and redemption, sit down. This one is worth reading all the way through. Who is Declan Rice, and why does his story matter to Chelsea fans? Before we get into everything that happened this week, let us make sure we are all on the same page about who Declan Rice actually is. Declan Rice is an English midfielder who currently plays for Arsenal. He joined Arsenal in the summer of 2023 for around £105 million, which made him one of the most expensive British players in history. Before Arsenal, he spent his senior career at West Ham United, where he became club captain and one of the most respected players in the Premier League. He won the Europa Conference League with West Ham in 2023, making him a European trophy winner before he even arrived at Arsenal. Since joining the Gunners, he has been one of the first names on the team sheet and one of the most important players in what Mikel Arteta is building. But here's the part that matters to Chelsea fans specifically. Declan Rice grew up as a Chelsea supporter. He joined the Chelsea Academy as a young boy. Chelsea was, in his own words, all he ever knew. He trained there, he dreamed there, he based his entire game on one of Chelsea's greatest ever players, and then Chelsea released him at 14 years old. That decision, made by a club that clearly did not see what he would become, has shaped everything that followed, and this week it came back into the conversation in a big way. What happened after the Atletico Madrid game? On Tuesday night, Arsenal played the second leg of their Champions League semi-final against Atletico Madrid. The first leg had ended in a draw, so everything was still to play for. The atmosphere was electric, the pressure was enormous, and Arsenal needed to produce. They did exactly that. Bukayo Saka scored the goal that sent Arsenal through, sealing a 2-1 aggregate victory over one of the most defensively solid teams in Europe. The celebrations in the dressing room were, according to Rice himself, pure chaos. After the game, Rice was interviewed by Prime Video. And while most players in that moment would only want to talk about the win in the final, Rice brought up something that clearly sits close to his heart. He was asked about Arsenal's next Premier League game, which is away at West Ham, and his answer turned into something much more meaningful than just talking about a football match. He said, and these are close to his exact words, that West Ham gave him everything. He said, without West Ham, there is no him. He said he honestly believes that. And then, in the middle of all that gratitude for West Ham, he added the line that every Chelsea fan took notice of. He said West Ham gave him a chance when Chelsea did not. Simple words. No drama, no shouting, just a quiet, honest statement that Chelsea passed on him and West Ham picked him up. And look at where he is now. What exactly happened at Chelsea? So what is the full story of Declan Rice and Chelsea? Let us go back to the beginning. Declan Rice joined the Chelsea Academy as a young boy. He was a dedicated student of the game. He trained hard, he loved the club, and he had a very clear idol in the Chelsea first team. That idol was John Terry. Rice has spoken many times about how much Terry meant to him. He watched Terry constantly. He studied the way Terry led his team, the way he defended, the way he commanded respect from everyone around him. Rice based his entire game on Terry, the leadership, the defensive instincts, the mentality. All of it came from watching John Terry from inside the Chelsea Academy. So imagine what it felt like when the club that had given him that idol, that inspiration, that dream, decided they no longer wanted him. Rice has been open about what that moment felt like. He said he cried his eyes out. He said he cried for an hour after his dad told him. He said Chelsea was all he ever knew, and suddenly he was wondering whether he would ever make it in football at all. Why did Chelsea let him go? Rice has shared his own theory on this. He was going through a big growth spurt at the time. His body was changing rapidly. His running pattern became a bit awkward, a bit clumsy, as young bodies often do during those years of fast growth. The coaches at Chelsea apparently saw that clumsiness and decided he was not the right fit. That is it. A growth spurt, a temporary phase that every young athlete goes through. And on the back of that, Chelsea said goodbye to the player who would go on to become one of the best midfielders in the country. Can you imagine being the person who made that call? Why West Ham changed everything. After Chelsea released him, Declan Rice did not give up. He found his way to West Ham United, and that is where his story truly began. West Ham took a chance on him. They brought him into their academy, gave him space to develop, and believed in him when his confidence must have been at a low point. Rice has never forgotten that. Not once. As he grew older and became a professional, he was taken under the wing of several West Ham managers. He mentioned names like David Moyes, Slaven Bilic, and Manuel Pellegrini in his interview this week. These were managers who saw something special in him and helped bring it out. Pellegrini actually made him club captain, a responsibility that Rice clearly valued deeply. Think about what that means. At Chelsea, he was let go because he looked a bit clumsy during a growth spurt. At West Ham, they made him captain. Rice repaid that faith in the biggest way possible. He became one of the best players in the Premier League while wearing a West Ham shirt. He dragged them to cup finals, he led by example, and eventually he led them to win a European trophy. The Europa Conference League win in Prague in 2023 was a historic moment for West Ham, and Rice was central to it. So when Rice says without West Ham there is no him, he means it completely. That club rescued him at his lowest point, built him up, trusted him with leadership, and helped him become the player he is today. And yet, without Chelsea making that decision to release him, none of it might have happened the same way. Funny how football works sometimes. The moment John Terry called him here is a detail that does not get talked about enough. When Declan Rice was released by Chelsea at 14, John Terry personally called him. Think about that. Terry was one of the biggest names in English football at the time. A Chelsea legend, a multiple Premier League champion, a Champions League winner, one of the best defenders in the world, and he took the time to personally call a 14-year-old kid who had just been released by his club to offer support and encouragement. Rice has spoken about how much that call meant to him. It was a gesture of genuine kindness from someone who did not have to do anything. Terry could have left it to others to handle. Instead, he picked up the phone, and the relationship between the two has continued ever since. Rice has said that he and Terry speak constantly, even now. Even as Rice has become an Arsenal player, even as he has reached the heights of the Champions League final, that connection with his childhood idol remains strong. This says something important. Whatever you think about how Chelsea handled Rice's release, the connection between Rice and Chelsea people is not one of simple bitterness. It is more complicated than that. There is gratitude, there is love for certain individuals, and there is the quiet fire that comes from being told you are not good enough and then proving otherwise. Has Rice ever been bitter about Chelsea? This is an interesting question to ask, because the honest answer is not really. Rice has made comments over the years that reference his Chelsea past. He has spoken about the rejection, the tears, the doubt. But he has never come across as a player consumed by bitterness or who carries a grudge. The way he tells the story, it is more like something that shaped him than something that broke him. In recent times, when Arsenal have played Chelsea in the Premier League, Rice has actually been generous in his comments about the club. He has praised Chelsea's new manager and their new direction. He acknowledged that Chelsea gave him problems on the pitch and that they have built something exciting with their young squad. He mentioned having a good relationship with Chelsea's coach, which goes back to their time together at West Ham. None of that sounds like a man who hates Chelsea. What it sounds like is a man who has processed his history with that club and arrived at a place of peace with it. He was hurt. He recovered. He went on to do incredible things. And somewhere along the way, he made room for respect. But the comments this week were still significant. Even in the moment of reaching a Champions League final, even with all the joy and chaos of that dressing room, he made a point of noting that West Ham gave him a chance when Chelsea did not. That line was not accidental. He chose to say it, and people noticed. What position are West Ham in right now? Rice mentioned in his interview that it is not nice to see the position West Ham are in, so where are they exactly? West Ham are in a difficult spot in the Premier League table. They are battling near the bottom of the table and facing a real fight to avoid relegation. For a club with their history and fan base, that is a painful situation to be in, and now they have to face Arsenal, who are flying, who just beat Atletico Madrid, who have the entire squad on a high, and who need the 3 points to keep the pressure on in the title race. Rice clearly feels something complicated about this. He loves West Ham. He is grateful to them in a way he will never stop talking about. But he is also a professional with a job to do, and that job is to help Arsenal win the Premier League. He put it simply and honestly. He said he hopes for the best team to win, but you can tell that playing against West Ham is not the same as playing against any other club for him. There is history there, there is warmth there, and right now, there is also concern for where that club is heading. Will that affect how he plays? Almost certainly not. Rice is too professional for that, but it adds a human layer to what could otherwise just be a routine league game. The bigger picture for Arsenal. Right now, let us zoom out for a moment and look at what Arsenal are actually trying to achieve. They are in the Champions League final. They got there by beating one of the toughest defensive teams in Europe over 2 legs. They have Saka, they have Martinelli, they have Havertz, they have Rice at the heart of everything. Under Mikel Arteta, they have been transformed into genuine contenders. But the Champions League final is not the only prize on offer this season. Arsenal are also right in the middle of a Premier League title race. Manchester City dropped points in a 3-3 draw at Everton, which opened the door for Arsenal. 3 wins from 3 remaining games against West Ham, Burnley, and Crystal Palace could be enough to bring the Premier League title to Arsenal for the first time in 22 years. 22 years. The last time Arsenal won the league was in the invincible season of 2003 to 2004. A whole generation of Arsenal fans has grown up without seeing their club lift that trophy. Arteta knows what is at stake. He spoke after the Atletico win about the shift in energy and belief at the club, but also about understanding the margins and the difficulty of what they are trying to achieve. This is a man who does not want his players to get carried away. Rice shared that same focus. Yes, he celebrated. Yes, the dressing room was chaos. But he also made clear that the job is not done. West Ham is next. Then Burnley, then Crystal Palace, and then Budapest for the final. Arsenal are on the edge of something historic, and Rice, the boy Chelsea let go at 14, is right at the center of it. What does this mean for Chelsea fans? Watching all of this, let us speak directly to the Chelsea community for a moment. How do you feel watching Declan Rice right now? It is a complicated emotion, is it not? On one level, he is an Arsenal player. He wears red. He plays for a direct rival. When Arsenal and Chelsea meet, Rice is the opponent. But on another level, this is a kid who grew up in your academy, who modeled his game on John Terry, who cried when you released him, who still speaks to Terry regularly, who acknowledged even recently that Chelsea have built something exciting and gave them credit for their performances. He is not your enemy. He never really was. The question Chelsea fans have to sit with is this: could it have been different? If the coaches in 2009 or whenever it was had looked past the growth spurt, looked past the awkward running pattern, and seen the leadership, the intelligence, the engine underneath, would Declan Rice have become a Chelsea player? That is impossible to answer. Maybe he never would have had the same pathway at Chelsea. Maybe the pressure of being at a club with so many resources and expectations would have shaped him differently. Maybe he needed West Ham, needed the scrappiness and the fight that comes with being at a smaller club to become who he is. Or maybe it was just a mistake, a bad decision, one that Chelsea fans have to live with every time Rice has a big moment, which these days is quite often. What we do know is that John Terry called him when he was at his lowest. That matters. That is the Chelsea connection that Rice has never forgotten. And it says something real about the kind of people the club produced, even if the institution itself made the wrong call. What Rice said in the dressing room afterwards, Rice gave us a rare look inside the Arsenal dressing room after the Atletico win. He said it was chaos, pure chaos. And he made a point that deserves more attention. He said people should not underestimate what Arsenal have done in this competition up to this point. Reaching a Champions League final is not easy. It takes more than talent. It takes belief, character, and the ability to perform under pressure on the biggest stage. Rice said that going into the game, every single player knew what was at stake. He said if you cannot get up for that kind of game, you cannot get up for any game. And he shared a moment of personal insight that was quite beautiful in its simplicity. He said when Arsenal went 1-0 up, he knew they were going to win. He could feel something special building. That is the instinct of a player who has been in big moments before, who has won things before, and who trusts his teammates completely. For a club and a fan base that has waited so long for moments like this, hearing their captain speak with that kind of confidence and clarity must feel extraordinary. Where does Arteta fit into all of this? You cannot tell this story without talking about Mikel Arteta. Arteta is the man who convinced Rice to join Arsenal. He is the man who has built this team from the foundations up, who has created a culture of belief and hard work and relentless ambition. He is the reason Arsenal are where they are. After the win over Atletico, Arteta spoke about feeling a shift in energy and belief at the club, but he was also careful not to let the moment run away. He talked about margins, about difficulty, about the ability and conviction needed to finish the job. His message was clear: celebrate tonight, then refocus immediately, because the work is not done. That discipline, that balance between joy and focus is exactly what has taken Arsenal to this point. And Rice is a perfect example of the kind of player who understands and embraces that culture. He celebrated, he felt the moment, and then he was already thinking about West Ham. The final thought on what this story actually tells us. So what is the real lesson here? Is it about Chelsea making a mistake? Yes, partly. Is it about West Ham doing the right thing? Absolutely. Is it about Rice's personal resilience and character? More than anything else. Because at the end of the day, clubs make decisions all the time. Some are right, some are wrong. Chelsea let go of a boy who was going through a growth spurt and looked a bit clumsy. That is a fairly normal academy decision in some ways. They could not see what was coming. Nobody could. What made the difference was what happened next. Rice did not quit. He did not let the rejection define him. He found a new home, worked even harder, and turned his pain into purpose. John Terry calling him at his lowest moment and saying, "Keep going," was probably more important than anyone will ever fully know. That kind of support from someone you look up to can change everything for a young person who is not sure if they are good enough. And now that young person is heading to a Champions League final. He is on the verge of winning the Premier League. He is one of the most important players at one of the best clubs in Europe. Chelsea let him go. West Ham gave him a chance. Arsenal gave him the stage, and Declan Rice made the most of every single moment. So here we are at the end of this story, but really the story is not over yet. There is still a Premier League title to win. There is still a Champions League final in Budapest to play. There is still history to be made. And at the heart of it all is a man who cried for an hour at 14 because his favorite club did not want him, who picked himself up, found a new family in East London, became captain, won a European trophy, and then moved to North London to chase even bigger dreams. What do you think? Was Chelsea releasing Rice the worst decision the club has ever made in its academy, or do you believe things happened exactly the way they were meant to? Could Rice have become the same player if he had stayed at Chelsea? Leave your thoughts below and share this with every Chelsea fan you know, because whether you love him or not, the story of Declan Rice is one of the most fascinating stories in English football right now, and something tells me the best chapters are still being written.